Hi, and welcome to another edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus. So what if you could only have one lens for your full frame digital camera? Just one lens. What would it be? So I'm going to give you what I think, and I'd like to hear your opinions on what lens you would choose. Of course, a lot depends on what type of photography you do. If it's just family things, you would probably take one lens. If you do a lot of traveling and that's primarily what you shoot, it would be another lens. If you do wildlife or sports, it would be another lens. I do a lot of people photography. I do a lot of events, portraits, headshots, some groups. That's where I earn my living. And I also like to do some wildlife photography, birds in flight, that kind of thing. But the lens that I earn most of my income with is not a lens that I would use for wildlife photography. So for me, really, it comes down to three possibilities. And these are three lenses that I own. There may be others that would suit better, possibly. So first, let's talk about the one I've had the longest, and that's the 24-120 f4 f-mount lens. I'm a Nikon shooter. I shoot primarily now with a Z8. And when I first got my mirrorless cameras, the Z6 and Z7, I didn't have any Z-mount lenses, so this was my go-to lens, a 24-120 f4 with the F to Z adapter. It's a decent lens. It's not a great lens. It was decently sharp for most of what I did. Another possibility, and this is the more recent lens that I purchased, is the 24-120 f4 Z-mount. It's a great little lens. It's lightweight, has a great range, and I like this one for travel photography. But it's not the best for a lot of what I do. Headshots, group shots, some low light situations. I do some stuff for a cardiology group, and they have conferences, and the lights are kind of dim, and I need to get shots of the speakers and people asking questions from the audience. And this lens starts at f4 and ends up at 6.3. So this isn't the best choice. So my lens, the lens I would choose if I could only have one, would be the 24-70 2.8 Z-mount. It's big, it's heavy, but it's very sharp, even wide open. Covers a decent range. If I need to do headshots with it, I would be able to set the camera for DX. So my 70 would give me the field of view of a 105. So it would work. Now, I don't think I would ever only own one lens, but if I did, if I was forced to, if somebody took everything away from me, took all my lenses away, this would be the one that I would hang on to. This is the lens that covers a lot of what I do. It's the ideal lens for a lot of the photo situations that I find myself in. It's good for landscapes if I wanted to do landscapes. With extension tubes, it's even good for macro photography, or near macro photography, I should say. It's fast enough for available light photography without flash. So it covers a decent range, and you can always crop. If the lens isn't long enough, if the 70 millimeter at the long end of this lens is not long enough, you could always crop, especially with a full frame sensor, and the Z8 has a 45 megapixel sensor. So you could crop a good bit. You can't go wider, okay? So the 24 at that end for landscape, even sometimes in tight quarters for groups, the 24 is great. If it was, let's say, if it started out at 28 or 35, that might not cut it in a lot of situations, because in post, there's nothing you can do if you didn't capture the entire group with whatever wide angle you have. So it's more important to me to have more at the wide end than at the long end. So I know Sony, Canon, and others make excellent 24 to 70 2.8s, 24 to 70 f4s. Nikon makes an excellent one. I know Canon does. I know Sony does. I believe Canon does. And I think any of those would be a good choice, depending, again, on what you shoot, what you do. If you're just doing family pictures, you know, almost I think any of these lenses will do. But if you're going to be doing things by available light, the 2.8 aperture is really nice. Another lens I should mention, which I don't own, but I hear a lot of good things about, is Nikon's 24 to 120 f4 Z mount. Okay, same focal range as this lens, the same maximum aperture, which is constant throughout the zoom range, is that 24 to 120 f4. Hear a lot of good things about that. If you don't quite need the speed at 2.8, if you don't do available light work, that could be a really good choice. And you know, look at, if you're Sony or Canon, see what they have. I know Canon has a 24 to 105 f4, I believe, which would be close to that 24 to 120 in the Nikon line. That could be a good choice. And don't get me wrong, these other lenses, for example, the 24 to 200 f4 to 6.3, if you don't need the speed, if you don't need that wider aperture, if you don't do available light photography, if primarily what you shoot is outdoors, then this is a great choice, and it's a lot cheaper than the 24 to 70. And like I said, if you do need something a little faster, something that has a constant aperture throughout the zoom range, that 24 to 120 is a good choice. And you know, this 24 to 120 f mount, and of course if you're using it on a Nikon Z mount camera, you would need the F to Z adapter. It worked out good for me for the time that I used it before I got the 24 to 70 Z mount. So no, it's not as sharp as the 24 to 70 2.8, but a few lenses are, in my opinion, at least of the lenses that I have owned. So as always, it's a matter of personal choice. Now, this is just a hypothetical situation that I would be left with one lens. I could, you know, I love my 70 to 200, I love the 85, the 135, different situations call for different lenses. But if I had to, as I said, and I'll repeat, this would be my go-to lens. This would be the lens that I could never, would never part with. Okay, so I'd like to hear your opinions. What's your lens? What's the one lens that you couldn't do without? What's the one lens that if they took everything away from you, the one lens you would want to keep? Let me know what you think, what you feel, you know, whether it's Sony, Nikon, Canon, Fujifilm, Pentax, whatever system you use. Let me know what your go-to lens is, what that one lens you could not part with, the one lens that you would keep over all others if you can only keep one. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So I will talk to you next time.